Hey, Coach.
Hey, Eric.
Coach, I got a 0 on that quiz, and I was sure that I turned it in.
Your talk. Remember, we did a retake on that.
Uh, I thought it was. Um, I
Did
thought
you
you
watch?
like
Did you watch the video last week?
yes.
You must have missed that then. So we talked about that last week. I think on the day you were absent. Part of what we said was we needed to retake those quizzes.
Okay. I thought you just like put it in 2 times on accident.
No, that was done on purpose. I talked about that in the class. You missed it. You didn't.
Yeah.
Either you skipped over it or didn't hear it or something.
Okay. Can I still get full credit in taking the quiz at all, or no?
I've got to see. You're going to be penalized regardless.
Okay.
And that's just, it's got to be a lesson. We got to hear those videos.
All right.
I'll give you partial credit because you did take it before, but I can't give you full credit.
Okay.
Hey, Logan, can you guys fix your cameras so like you're in the camera at the very least, kind of like I am, so where I can. All right, good. Eric Kaler, you got your camera rolling, bud?
I don't have a camera, sir.
Didn't you have one last week?
No, I didn't.
Okay. How we doing, fellas?
Good.
Good. So a couple things. There is going to be homework this week. I've got another quiz scheduled this week. I wanted to get 2 assessments in before the break. I'll make sure that we have that. I'm going to provide you the Flexi Quiz link. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be based off of a new Dan Carlin reading. I'll provide you guys, listening to that podcast. I'll provide you the podcast that you are going to listen to. I had everybody in this class working on a document, okay, that you were supposed to get done in a group. That is what we need to do first. Before we do that, however, let's see. Logan Melendez, if you would lead us in prayer, I'd appreciate it. Go ahead.
In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Glory be to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, now, shall be, world without end. Amen.
Okay, and then let's do the Pledge of Allegiance here real quick. And if you would, direct your attention to our boy Noah's video, okay, since he has the flag in the background. All right, here we go. Noah, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
just for all.
Okay.
I started laughing. Sorry.
No, that's all good. I think I think your video kind of cut out on us. I think you're lagging a little bit. Yeah. So good. All right. So let's go ahead and get started today. Okay. And I've got kind of a we won't make it a warm up. I'm sorry. We were supposed to get with the so Cole Carmen, Darrell, Miles, and Parker Tootle. You guys had a something you were supposed to talk to us about, your assignment for the day. And listen, it looks like most of you guys are okay, but let's see. Xavier, I think you're reminding me, make sure that your video for the class, or make sure your name for the class is is your name and not someone else's name. Okay, just make sure it's your name, please. That helps me keep track of attendance and all that. Yeah, you good, Xavier? Okay, hopefully he's good. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and hear from that group, the guys that I just said. One of you guys are going to have to highlight or going to have to screen share with us and show us and show us your work, show us your document, and talk about what your topic was. Let's see. Gary, do you remember what your topic was?
My topic?
Yeah.
Like on the document you gave us?
Yeah.
I have the document right here, but I do not remember the document or the topic was. What?
So you have the dot, but you should be looking at it. All that information should be in front of you. Can you share your screen?
Yeah, hold on. It says I can't share my screen. We're talking about the document that we had other people do it with us, right?
Yeah. So the one that you guys, were supposed to work on last class.
The World War I pics, right?
Yeah, the World War I pictures. It was 4 pictures on the document.
Oh, ours was No Man's Land. My bad. It was No Man's Land.
Okay, and you're saying that you can't share the screen?
Let me try again. No, it says it's disabled by you.
Disabled, huh? Okay. All right, adapt and adjust. I'll have to figure that out. If you would go ahead and share that with my email. I'm sorry.
I shared it with you last time, like on Google Drive, but I can.
Okay, well then I've got it. Good. Okay, and then so Davin, Marshall, Noah, Wyatt, Niefler. And you guys should have your document. And can you guys verify with me that you cannot, in fact, share your screen? Could somebody try to do it?
It says it's disabled.
Yeah, it says it's disabled.
Okay.
It says you disabled it, the host.
Yeah, I must have done that when I created my initial settings. And I'm looking for, usually there's a way to fix those sorts of things here, but I'm not seeing where that might be. Oh, well. All right. So we'll just have to continue then. So activity then to start. What I want you guys to do, if you would, John Davis, I'm sending you to the waiting room until you get in a better spot where you're not lounging around. Xavier, where are you at? Okay, you guys got to be sitting up straight in the chair. We can't have people, laying around and all that. You might as well watch it on YouTube if you're going to do that. All right, so share the screen now. Okay, so I'm not going to require for this class that you guys complete a warm-up on that Google document today, but I do want us all participating in this as much as possible. So what I want you to look at is this PowerPoint, and I want you to do this for at least 1 minute. If you guys can hear me and you can hear what I'm saying, I want you for at least 1 minute to place your palms over your ears. Okay, place your palms over your ears, like so. Okay, so you're doing this, and you know how that uncomfortable thing when you kind of suction your ears with your hands, how it's kind of a little uncomfortable when you do that. So if you put your palms directly over your ears and you press them into your ears, it becomes a little uncomfortable when you do that. What I want you to do is for the span of 1 minute, I want you to as violently as possible with your hands over your ears, drum the back of your head, drum the back of your skull with your fingers as hard as you can with your fingers over your ears. So go ahead, do that for me. I will be watching, just making sure you're participating. Go ahead, do it now. Go. And when I take my hand down, that's when you're to stop. There you go, Xavier. As violently as possible. Do it as hard as you can. Tate, that's weak sauce. Logan, you're doing it wrong. Keep your palms on your ears and just drum the back of your head as hard as you can, kind of like this. Okay, stop. All right. So I shared with you guys a point of comparison last class, and that comparison was, the closest that you could come to experiencing what an artillery barrage would have felt like. Okay, is if you were tied to a post, and if someone with a hammer was repeatedly hitting the post by your head with the hammer as hard as they could. Okay. Obviously, we can't demo that. If we could, I'd love to do it to Darrell or to Tate. Okay. But we can't demo that in a Zoom meeting. Okay. So the closest we can come to demoing that is what you guys did. And you guys did it for a minute. That experience, okay, magnified to the point where that artillery barrage is going on for 24 hours. And not only that, for several days. Each finger hit on the back of your head is one artillery shell hitting the earth in front of you. Not only that, but the whole ground moving and everything. That would have been as close as we could talk about to maybe what Verdun would have been like, okay? This battle that we're going to talk about and various points of the war. So that would have been the best point of comparison. All right, questions about that? Comments?
My ears hurt.
Your ears hurt. Okay, so it probably wouldn't have been that fun if we're talking about 24 hours. If we're talking about 24 hours as opposed to a minute straight of that experience. So
It was too early in the morning to be doing that.
I'm sorry. I need to wake you guys up somehow. All right, so I'm glad you did it though. Okay. Points for participating. Let's see. Let's get to what we're supposed to do today. Again, those of you guys who if your group completed an assignment, make sure that assignment is shared with me. Okay. Gary said that he did it last class. That he shared, so his group's good to go. I've got to look back to last week to see if everybody did it, but I need that document shared with me. And I'm going to see if I can figure that out between Thursday and between this particular class. So I told you guys that what you would have is a quiz on this or on the reading. So here's the homework assignment. Here's the homework assignment for next class. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in there. It's basically the Blueprint of Armageddon podcast again. And again, I want you guys, doing your due diligence and figuring this out. But I want you listening to part 4 of the podcast. And you know, it's the type of podcast where you can kind of pick up wherever and be good to go with it. Before long, hold on a second. But you've got to, I want you to listen to part 4 of that podcast and going from there. So part 4, it's going to be, I want you listening to, and I'm going to say it and make sure you write this down. I want you listening to, see, I'm going to put in the chat feature down here. This is part 4. I want you listening to minute 27 through minute 1 hour and 36. Okay, so 1 hour 36. So a little over an hour, a little bit more than last time. But that is the part of the podcast you're going to listen to. This time you are going to take a reading quiz, and it is going to be graded as a quiz on that assignment. Any questions about that assignment?
Won't let me watch the video.
What?
Won't let me watch the video.
Of course, Eddie.
It's on YouTube. You can watch it anytime.
I know, I tried it. It says video unavailable.
All right, Eric Caleb.
Here is part 4 of a multi-part series on.
Somebody figured it out. I can hear it.
So
it sounds like McGuire figured it out. So yeah, Eric, this is what you need to do.
But if that's what
You go on YouTube and do a simple search. Okay? Blueprint of Armageddon, part 4. Blueprint of Armageddon, part 4. That should get you to the assignment, minute 27 through minute 136. I'm going to post a flexi quiz. That flexi quiz will be available between at 8 o'clock tonight to take. I'll post it now, and I'll post it in an email later on, but it'll be available at 8 o'clock tonight to take the quiz. It'll be a time quiz. You got 20 minutes to complete the quiz. It is 10 questions. That should be plenty of time, okay? I would take as many notes on what you as possible. That would make it easier for me if I was prepping for it. That's what I might do. Here is the link for that flexi quiz. Okay, here's the link for the flexi quiz. So you've got that assignment. You should be good to go there. And don't open the flexi quiz early, because then I think you're prompted to finish it. You can't close the browser and then finish it later. Okay, as some of you guys may have found out. All right.
So is the quiz about the YouTube we watch it, or you're giving us a read to read?
So so reading quiz, listening quiz is probably the more accurate term. It'll be based off of that part of the podcast you listen to. And guys, I'm limited virtually with how we handle these virtual quizzes. It was very apparent to me when I gave out the last quiz, there's a lot of copying and pasting going on, okay? Do so at your own risk. If I see that you're copying and pasting, and again, there's multiple answers to many of these, if I see that you're copying and pasting, it's as simple as giving you a 0. Okay, I was lenient with the last quiz. I'm gonna be a Nazi on this quiz. Just because there's multiple answers, there's multiple possibilities. All right. Any other
Coach?
Yeah.
When is it gonna close? You said it starts at 8.
Oh yeah, so thank you. Yeah, it starts at 8 o'clock tonight. It ends at 8. It ends at the beginning of the school day. So I think I posted it at 8 a.m. Thursday morning is when it's due. So it'll close 8 a.m. Not Thursday morning, Wednesday morning, because that's always next class, Wednesday morning. Okay, so you got to do it between now and then. Be prepared to discuss the quiz on Thursday. Okay? So, we may have a full docket on Thursday between, hearing about y'all's Word documents and in discussing the podcast. But it's pretty much exclusively about the portion I'm having you guys listen to is about the Battle of Verdun and talking about that battle and the ins and outs there. Okay? All right. With that being said, so what we were, the goal of that last activity that we did, that activity with you guys drumming the back of your heads, it was meant to simulate maybe what Verdun would have been like. And just to kind of add to it, you don't know in the actual battle, you don't know which one of those drum beats on your head is going to actually physically land on your head. So, you could die within any moment. But, think about trying to sleep with that constant tapping on the back of your head. Now think about that going on for 24, 48, 72 hours and what that would have meant for the people in that experience. So that would have been significant. Okay, Darrell, you may use the restroom, and you guys don't need to ask me if you need to get up at any point in time and use the restroom. You're welcome to do it. Just note that I may say, my expectation is that you catch up on what you missed on the YouTube video later. Okay. So what you were supposed to do, we did that. Drum roll your head with your fingers. This is the closest to what Verdun felt like. An additional point, that artillery barrage, we can't so much listen to stuff on through Zoom. It comes out with a lot of lag and it sounds weird, but an artillery barrage, if you get a second, listen to an artillery barrage on YouTube for a little bit and see if you could deal with that kind of maxed out in terms of volume for 5 minutes. It's an interesting kind of experiment. Today at this Battle of Verdun, they are still pulling out artillery shells. There are entire parts of France that are completely cordoned off because of events, because of how events went at that point in time. So you got to keep that in mind. You see the landscape here. You see the landscape in the background here. This is what it did. I mean, this was forest, and you see what happened to it in this environment. So, they have to cordon off, I think it's like 90 square miles in France because of artillery shells that are still being found, and often they're still calling in bomb squads today because of that. Okay, so we're talking about the second half of World War I. The second half of World War I between 1916 and 1918. Brian Smith, where did we leave off? What was the situation?
Talked about like how Germany was going to go through Belgium to go get to France.
Okay, Germany was going through Belgium to get to France. Daniel Berthazil, what was that called?
That was called the Schneifler Plan.
The Schlieffen Plan. Good. And when was that plan brought to a screeching halt, Daniel?
I'm not sure what year that was, sir.
I'm not talking about a year. I'm talking about a singular event or battle that caused it to stop.
Battle of the Marne.
Welcome now.
Marne.
Welcome now. Welcome now.
All right. Eric Kaler, what are you saying?
Hmm?
Are you saying something?
Oh, nothing. No, I'm not.
Are you sure?
Yes.
It sounded like you were saying something.
No, I wasn't.
Okay. All right, don't make me kick you out of here, please. All right. So moving on. With this, so we're talking about the Battle of Verdun. The Battle of Verdun. Germany was in a pinch at this point in time. After this Battle of the Marne, progress had been stopped. They're realizing at this point in time that every single battle that they fight in, any sort of offensive they start, the best comparison to it is that of a meat grinder. What a descriptive phrase for this, because essentially you send a charge, you send any sort of offensive charge, it's going to turn into Terrence Rhodes kicking you out, you lose participation points, putting you in the waiting room. Okay. You lose. So guys, keep unless you're writing, please do keep your eyes up. It's tough to tell between people who are writing and looking at their cell phones and whatnot. I told you guys how to angle your cameras. Please do keep your cameras angled that way. In terms of what this battle was, he said if every battle is going to turn into a meat grinder, this is the German General von Falkenhayn. If every battle is going to turn into a meat grinder, then we might as well bring the meat grinder to the battle. In other words, what they decided to do was to create a situation in which that they would lure the French and the British allied powers into a battlefield that gave them the advantage. And this was around this town of Verdun. And what they did was they set up their artillery, and they ended up bringing in about 1,300 trains, not train cars, trains, bringing artillery shells to this location. And they began shelling and the French bought the bait. They saw that they were going for this town. This town was important kind of historically for the French. It would almost be like, in the United States, if, not necessarily a big town, but if I don't know, Williamsburg was taken. All right, not a big town, obviously, Williamsburg. There's some historical significance there, and it might upset some patriots if a town like Williamsburg was taken. And so the Germans knew that the French would take the bait. They did. They went to defend the town, and then the Germans just artillery shelled the hell out of them. And I mean to the point where if you go to the town of Verdun today, and just as outside the town of Verdun here, if you go there today, it literally changed the landscape. And you can imagine if it looks like this now, how it might have looked 100 years ago. I mean, you're talking about a place that would have looked like the moon. And that's not an exaggeration. It's not an exaggeration. So in the end, they ended up shelling about 1 million shells, or firing 1 million shells over the course of a 9-hour artillery barrage. The actual barrage lasts several days. The most intense part was about a 9-hour part where they initially started shelling the French. And this was followed by a German invasion. The French ended up successfully defending the town. To give you an idea, again, of the power of this barrage, there were reports of soldiers who said that they witnessed, and this isn't just one soldier, and to keep from exaggeration, that they witnessed literally trees being shot up into the air because of artillery shells hitting, full-on trees. And before the tree could land, it ended up being shot up into the air again by another shell. There ended up being reports of people that were launched up into the branches of trees, and they go onto the battlefield after it happened, and people were literally up in the trees. All right. So even with this perfect setup, the Germans still lost. Now the Germans, I mean, they're still pretty much operating at full strength. That's important to note. But what you have is that they've found that there's really nothing that they can do. There's really nothing that they can do at this point. It's going to be about, this is going to be a defensive war, and there's no way, and the Germans are kind of quickly losing hope of breaking through the line and creating another Marne situation where they may be able to take Paris. Let's talk about the war technology real quick. The first thing we should talk about is the gas. So specifically the mustard gas and the chlorine gas. So the Germans started using this technology. Again, when they become desperate, they're going to have to come up with ways to try to fix this situation for them. Okay, so officially at this point in time, you could not legally use mustard gas in terms of it was an international war crime. And if you were caught using it, you could get in big trouble. Germans are becoming desperate. They find that they have to use it. But still, this is a relatively new technology. This wasn't something that people were familiar with. And so the first time we see mustard gas used, and if you could picture from the perspective of the British soldiers, it's essentially like a the British soldiers would look over no man's land and they would see this gas that was coming over. I mean, they wouldn't know what it was. It looked like a yellowish, maybe a grayish cloud. But it was almost like a fog. It was like a wall. And it would be coming over slowly. And there was more curiosity at first. But once that gas came over, it became clear pretty quickly that it was dangerous. And there are descriptions that we have from people, okay, who lived during or who experienced the gassing of what it was like. So imagine for a second, and this is what it was like being gassed. Imagine for a second that you breathe this stuff in, and immediately it starts feeling like taking little needles and putting them in the sides of your lungs, stuffing thumbtacks into your eyes. And that was just the pain, because what would literally happen, and it wasn't the pain that killed you, it was what literally happened to your lungs. Because when this happens, when you inhale mustard gas, what this is doing is it's activating and it's putting into overdrive the mucous membranes inside your lungs. And in other words, the mucous membranes that produce phlegm inside you.
So you're basically drowning yourself from the inside?
And you literally drown on the inside. Your lungs fill up with phlegm. There's nothing you can do about it. It's involuntarily. They can't stop doing it. The mucous membranes can't stop, and you drown in your own phlegm. Now, very often, people would go blind if they were exposed badly, or they would die because of that. But people who weren't exposed very badly, or maybe didn't get their gas masks on in enough time, they might have temporary blindness, and they'd have to go to the reserve area for a little bit. But very often, I mean, this is a new war technique, something that hadn't been used before. And the Germans, they were just that desperate. And really the Germans called into question, hey, should we be using this? Because what they found very often was that when the situation with the wind, where was it going?
Back at them.
It was going back at them. So if they released gas, maybe when the wind was favorable, it would work. But what would happen after that? They've kind of opened that up, right? And they've showed, okay, hey, this is how we're playing now. And if they show that's how they're playing, well, the other 90% of the time when the wind is in their face, they're probably going to get gas from the British. So still, even with this, Germans were primarily the ones that used it. We don't see as many. The British and the French did use it, but not quite as much. We also see the flamethrower used for the first time, not to the effectiveness of maybe World War II, but it would be used for the first time, mainly as a weapon once you were in the enemy trench using a flamethrower. Tanks, These were kept top secret. People weren't led to know about these. The British had created them, and it was mainly as a used for to go over barbed wire, because otherwise they had no way of going over barbed wire. As Xavier turns his camera on every single time I switch to his screen. Okay, so let's see. What else? So we see, and the tanks, they're not really going to be very strategically useful. They're not going to be strategically useful, okay? But it was more of an intimidation tactic. People didn't know what they were looking at when they'd see these tanks. The Germans compared them to rolling alligators, because that's what they look like to them. They said the closest thing they could think about what they look like were alligators. Aircraft, again, not super significant from a fighting standpoint. There were attempts by the Germans to use Zeppelins to bomb the city of London, kind of like they did in World War II. But the accuracy was really, really bad, and they couldn't take but so many bombs up in a Zeppelin. And so, I mean, sometimes they didn't even know, they'd fly over London, for example, and they weren't even sure once they dropped them if they would end up hitting the city. Okay, that's how inaccurate they were. We also see the primary source of aircraft is going to be for surveillance. They would have those dog fights that you hear about, World War I dog fights, where they're up in those single engine planes and they're flying around each other, and those, the open air cockpit and all that other stuff. There were battles like that, but there was not a whole lot of strategic importance to those. It would literally amount to, and this is how they did it at the beginning. They took the pilots would take a handgun up with them, and they literally fly by the enemy plane with their handgun, pop, 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 right, shooting at them while they're flying by the other plane. That's about as advanced as they got. Again, World War II, we're going to see much more strategic use for both airplane, tanks, amongst other things, along, I guess, with flamethrowers. We mentioned machine guns. This was devastating from a standpoint of really bolstering defenses, and it made it so you literally could not attack. And then submarine U-boats, we talked about them as well. Again, this is a German innovation, and the British may have had dominated the oceans at this point in time, but it is the Germans with this U-boat. I mean, you can't shoot what you can't see, and they ended up devastating really the British Navy and neutralizing them to a certain extent. Britain still was able to blockade Germany, but the U-boats did significant damage to a number of ships. There was a report of one U-boat destroying five warships on the part of the British. And so they didn't really have an answer to that. All right, I'm going to flip it forward. If you need to take more down, just make sure you go on YouTube later on. All right, so another battle we can talk about, Battle of the Somme. Battle of the Somme, and there's actual physical evidence for you of a person that was literally launched into a tree. Okay, just giving you an idea of how the power of these artillery barrages. This is the biggest battle of World War I with the most casualties. Again, very few of these battles are going to be strategically important after the Marne, just because they'll result in a lot of deaths, but very little ground is gained either way. very often, in fact, it becomes about, hey, let's see if we can take this hill, right? And you'll see all these offensive charges to take a hill. And there might be literally millions of people who die over the course of the year taking this hill. They might take it for a little bit and lose it, just overtaking a hill. And most of the front actually doesn't move at all the entire part of the war. I mean, they may end up gaining a few feet, maybe a few yards if they're lucky, but it's really not going to move. This is going to go down in British history as the worst battle of the war for them by far. 65,000 British deaths. They didn't have as many deaths at the beginning of the war when compared to the French, but they quickly catch up with them in terms of casualties with battles like this. And it ends up being the first battle that tanks end up being used. And again, it freaks out the Germans a little bit at first. They're not quite sure how to handle it. They don't move as well as they thought they might. Very often they get stuck in craters, and really, generals don't really know how to use these things. They're basically like just kind of sending them out and then seeing what happens. And very often, all it takes is a grenade or even the cockpit itself was as bulletproof as they could make it. But very often they found that the people driving these things ended up being exposed to fire. So not super significant. Eventually they would begin sending them out with soldiers to go along with it, and that would help. But really there isn't going to be much strategic use for tanks at this point in time. The end result of this is going to be another Allied victory, and Germany at this point in time is becoming desperate. They're holding the line, but they've got to, this is the second general that they've gone through. They've fired von Moltke, they've now fired von Falkenhayn, and they're trying to see if they can figure out anything that works. And really, strategically, what this is going to amount to for them, it's going to be all about maybe delivering one knockout blow. That's going to be their one shot. If they can get enough momentum to create one knockout blow, then they should be good to go. And defensively, they've been okay, because what they found is that they could shift forces around pretty easily. Germany has a lot of railroads, and so they find, hey, the Russians are advancing a little bit. Let's send some guys to the Eastern Front. Okay, hey, there's some movement on the Western Front now. Let's shift them, the guys that we had in Russia, let's move them back to the Western Front to deal with it. So the Allies are realizing that they're going to have to be more coordinated about all of this. And so what you end up having, ends up being very effective, is you end up having Russia, Great Britain, France, Italy, they're all agreeing at one time, hey, let's attack all at the same time, all together, and wipe out as much as we can. All right. So there's a picture of machine gun. This is what's going on the, I guess this would be a French town. I think both sides also are realizing, hey, this is a time of total war. We've got to take it to the citizens as well. So you end up seeing bombing raids of London. Okay, there's an example of that. Not super effective, not nearly as effective as what they did during World War II. There's an example of a tank that you would see during this point in time. You may be able to see the comparison to alligators. I don't know. But these on the sides, these would be machine guns. And so they would use these machine guns to try to, but you can see the range would be fairly limited. So there isn't going to be a whole lot of bite there. All right, so we'll wrap up today by talking about as maybe getting through one reason of the U.S. For why the U.S. enters the war, and that might be all we end up getting through today. That's perfectly fine. My idea of a timeline, guys, is that what you're going to see is I think this is the second to last section of notes. We'll wrap this up on Thursday, or excuse me, on Wednesday. You guys will have spring break, and then we'll go over one more section of notes, And then I'm currently working on a test for you guys. I'm trying to get you to take it a little bit differently, not like the test we gave last time, but all of it on one of those virtual test-making websites.
Sir, when is spring break?
Next week.
Huh.
Did you not know that?
No.
Believe me, I know that. Trust me. I am paying very close attention to when spring break is. I know it hasn't been easy for you guys, but it's not been easy for the teachers either. Trust me. All right. So the U.S. entering the war. Germans end up announcing unrestricted submarine warfare. So the problem has been, and we gotta remember about the United States. The United States has been sitting on the sidelines, and they haven't gotten involved, and there's really hasn't been a need for them to get involved. They're practicing this policy, and we're going to refer to it again, this policy of isolationism. Who can tell me what isolationism is? It's exactly as it sounds.
Basically, they're trying to isolate themselves from Europe and not get involved with anything.
Yeah, and don't get involved in war. Did that pretty much say what you were going to say, Darrell?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So not to get involved with the war, not to fight, and just to kind of let things play out. Well, the problem is that even if you say you want to remain isolated, what is the problem going to be for you? Is this war going to impact you even if you stay isolated?
Yes.
How, Bigelow?
Probably the economy's going to take a hit because trading with other countries.
Yeah, mainly the economy. And guys, I was thinking about this actually the other day. If you guys want to know what war on the home front is like, I think that you guys are I think that we're all experiencing this now. This coronavirus thing, this is what war on our home front would be like. If there was a literal battle going on outside the city of Richmond, this is literally what we would be doing. If there were armies marching to and from, this is literally what we would be doing. And I think it's important to underscore the significance. This coronavirus thing, this is a game changer. And it's a game changer in so many ways. But the biggest way is the Great Depression, how for our grandparents or maybe our great-grandparents, depending on how old our grandparents are, that was kind of a defining aspect of their generation. This, I think, is going to be a defining aspect of our generation in that, this is what we've grown up with, but much more so than September 11th. I mean, September 11th, it changed many lives to be sure, but not to the extent this is going to. And it's important to recognize that this is more than just a 3-month thing. This is going to go on for a period of time. Any thoughts on that?
How long do you think it's going to go on?
I know that you guys are probably sick of hearing, I don't know, but I think there's the potential. You talk about second waves, and there's a lot of talk about that, like it resurging in the fall. Listen, we don't know if it slows down during the summer, let alone resurges during the fall.
I think it's going to come back once they let us all out.
What's that?
Yeah. I think it's going to come back once they let us all out, and
We need to start
everything's
taking
gonna
this more
go normal.
seriously.
I think part of the problem, like social distancing, yes, it's preventing things, but it also could be prolonging things. You know what I'm saying? Because, if we get into a point, you're talking about unemployment that makes the Great Depression look like child's play. And how long can we continue to deal with that? I don't know.
Do you think this will get nearly as fast as the Spanish flu, or do you think this is not going to reach that level?
Maybe not casualty-wise, but I think this ends up impacting our lives more than the Spanish flu did at that point in time. But listen, guys, we have run out of time. I'm hearing the bells, so what we'll do is we'll pick up with this next time, and if we want to continue that conversation, we can. But think about it. Think about that comparison between between the battlefront and this situation that we're experiencing now. It's interesting to think about. All right, see you guys later.
See you, Coach.
All right, I'll email the Flexi Quiz link out as well. Make
Mr.
sure you
Walker.
copy it. Anything in that chat.
Mr. Walker,
Yes, sir.
I just want to ask you a question because it
Is this
says
about the
on-
classwork grade you got?
Yeah, it
Okay.
was one of the homework
I
assignments.
remember the email. I just need to. I'll go back and make the change, Brian Smith.
All right, thank you.
All right. Yeah, no problem. Hey, Nick.